Hello, fellow digital scrapbookers. Tiffany Tillman here, back with another Q&A Wednesday, a weekly feature at simplytiffanystudios.com dedicated to answering your digital scrapbooking questions. Let's jump right into this week's question, shall we? Tiffany, thanks for reopening your Q&A Wednesdays. They've quickly become one of my favorite resources for digital scrapbooking. I like that your tricks touch on a variety of DigiScrap topics, so maybe you can help me too. I suck at embellishing too. And what I don't get is what it means to cluster. No, I get clustering, but is that really all there is to it? Just cluster things together? Because when I cluster, I end up with a hot mess. My clusters look like a random mishmash of embellishments, and they don't add to my page. So Tiffany, how do you cluster the right way? Paulette. All right, Paulette, you've asked the basic clustering question. How to build an embellishment cluster. How? No problem. We'll tackle it. Let's go. Honestly, Paulette, there really are a few different ways, but the process I use most often and recommend first to you, the cluster challenge like I once used to be, is to cluster using radial balance as your inspiration. Okay, so what do I mean by that, right? First, let's define radial balance. Radial balance means a design or group of elements are arranged around a center point, and the elements radiate out from that center point too. For example, the average star shape demonstrates radial balance. Spiral shapes exhibit radial balance too, because the stroke circles around the center area. And I bet you can find many other examples of radial balanced shapes. So how do we incorporate radial balance into our cluster building? Well, step one is to choose an element as your center point. That's key. It matters not what the center will be, as long as you establish a center. Step two, choose a piece to place underneath your center point. Add another piece on top. The piece behind the center grounds and supports, and the piece on top acts like an anchor and nails the entire cluster sucker down. And finally, in step three, continue to build out radially from the center point of the cluster. And there's no rhyme or reason. Add what you desire according to your skill level and your style. Now, know what you might be wondering, does the final cluster have to be in the shape of a circle? No, unless you want it to be. Generally, I like my clusters to lack a definitive shape, but I always identify a center starting point for my clusters, even if it doesn't remain in the center. Using this method, I'm able to create eye-catching clusters that started with radial balance. And Paulette, that's the A to your Q. Thanks, P. Dizzle. Are there other ways to build clusters? You betcha. And after you build them, you still have to know where to place them. So for more clustering and embellishing ideas, join me in It's Elemental, the DigiScrapper's Roadmap for embellishing success. Have a question you'd like answered on Simply Tiffany's Q&A Wednesday? Click on the Submit a Question link and send it to me. If your question is chosen, I'll send you a $10 gift certificate good at my brand new store at Pixels & Company. All right, girls, until next Wednesday's Q&A, happy scrapbooking.